We had a coach growing up here in Canada. He was a Portuguese guy who actually played for Portugal in the World Cup in the 80s. I don't know. I think his name was Jose something. I don't know. Either way, he was a cool cat, and he swore by this outside of the boot thing. And he would always tell us in training, like, it's so efficient, and he would get us to like practice it over like different situations, like basically cross diagonal balls from either side of the pitch. And the problem with it is like one or two players could pull it off. And I like to say, I mean, I was one of those two players. I wanted like just a humble brag there, but that also was when I was like 14 years old and I was like in my peak. The problem with it is that it's hard to normalize and have it kind of just in your toolbox, ready to pull out whenever you want. It's one of those things that you either have it or you don't. And if you have it, you're basically trying it in every situation. And if you don't pull it off, or if it goes wrong mid game and a player intercepts it, they go back the other way, they score, it looks bad, right? So you got to be really, really a special player to be able to just do that so nonchalantly. My guess is like with that one there, with the shot, I mean, the pass is a whole other art form. The shot is the fact that he also extends this to his shooting form is incredible. The shot itself is like from that position, if you're right footed, it's you either have to hit it with your left from the angle that that pass came to him, or you have to really go through with your laces and just hit it to the top left corner. I guess the outside of the boot just allows you to just almost channel it a little bit and like just take the energy and basically usher it into the right place you want it to go. Otherwise, it's really hard to do. If I would guess, Chris, I think it's both efficient but also a flex. I think it can be both.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
kind of like it's kind of like Raul preferring a chipped finish over, your normal kind of under the goalkeeper finish.
right.
I think it's become as signature as well because it's nearly as iconic as that chipped finish as well. Yeah, again, I wrote kind of for my newsletter about Modric's kind of longevity. So is kind of being amongst say kind of top 10 players in Real Madrid history to play into his 30s. And I while we were kind of pre-pod when we discussed the idea of just ranting about Modric for a couple of minutes, I kind of dug it up and I was looking at seeing how things have progressed, and I've discovered now that he's sixth in terms of Real Madrid appearances after the age of 30, and he is 232, so he's about 13 appearances away from becoming fifth, taking over Hento, which again just another
Absurd.
yeah, it's just
Absurd.
completely absurd.
When you think of how much time Gento overlapped with the Di Stefano
Yeah,
era, but also the Yeye era. It is funny. Like I was recently looking at, and I've gone through a lot of this from my book. Just looking at the all-time appearance list, it's very like a lot of the players who have only like come like mid-decade are pretty far up the list. Which I'm talking about like players like Isco, for example, who are like pretty high up there. Which is like whoa, like where did your name come from? And it shows you just like how difficult it is to stay in longevity at this club. Modric is also this unique player where he and Zidane might end up being the only two legends who actually retire at the club. It's one of those things that I think Modric will basically give into any contract situation at this point and just ride it out here because he just seems like he would do that. But back to the game itself, Grant, I thought, I don't know. I don't think you were on the last episode where we talked about Croatia's game against who were they playing? Not the England one. After England, who were they playing?
The Czech Republic, right?
Czech Republic, yeah, that one. Brozovic shouldn't play that game, and there was some speculation maybe it was because he had such a horrific game against England. That may have been the case, but he also had a knee issue, and he came in off the bench. He starts this game against Scotland, and I think like it's weird because him and Kovacic, they had it lined up as a double pivot with Modric in the 10 role. I think Brozovic and Kovacic together, they have their own defensive issues that they need to answer. I think Scotland, a better team than Scotland, would have exploited them more, and England did. They were the better team, and I think they're just getting going. England too. They weren't at their best yet. With Scotland, I just didn't feel like they had the passing accuracy nor the right runs, the right person to pull the strings in transition to be able to exploit the space behind Kovacic and Brozovic. But what it did allow was that the fact that Brozovic was back in this game allowed Modric to play a little bit higher up the pitch, right? So, like Modric's role was a bit more fluid and free flowing in this game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was a little deeper in that first half, and they tried to mark him out of the game, and so he had to drop deeper to try and get on the ball a little more, and they limited him more in that first half. Then in the second half, you see this game become more transitional because a 1-1 draw does nothing for these teams. They both go out. And so both teams are trying to initiate and try and get that goal. And this is when it's a lot harder to try and track Modric's clever movements off the ball, especially in that final third. And ultimately, he's really able to pull the strings in that second half, get super involved, take the game by the scruff of the neck, get that goal on the top of the box. I don't think he would have had that much space there in that first half if the game was playing out like that. And then obviously they got their first corner of the game in the 53rd minute, so you don't even get to see Modric's service from set pieces until later in the match, and he ends up providing that assist to Perisic on that as well.